Thank the gentleman. Let me recognize the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Arrington, to inquire.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, panelists. I hail from one of the largest, if not the largest, agriculture production center in the country, if not the world. I'll spare you all the statistics. You just have to trust me. Mr. Giebert, my farmers share your sentiments almost exactly. That is, this has been a painful transition and exercise in resetting this relationship with China to get them to a place where we had true, fair, and reciprocal trading relationship. And it hasn't been easy. It's been painful. But my farmers in West Texas see greener pastures on the other side for their children and their grandchildren. And they know that it's going to be painful. Like all good, hardworking, God-fearing farmers, they know that sacrifice is part of the American ethos. It's part of the culture of rural America, and it's what you do every day as a farmer. And they want to make sure that their children have the best chance to do what has been done for generations, like in Mr. Dufault's case, 4 generations. They know that there's no such place and such prospect in the future without resetting with China. How long has China been taking us for a ride, Mr. Giebert? How long have they been operating in an unfair and an unseemly way with the American producer?
A very long time. I don't know the year specifically, but it has been a very, very long time.
Mr. Dufault, how long has China been messing around with us in an unfair way, in the way they subsidize their farmers and the way they distort and manipulate the markets through currency and stockpile and dump cheap product to jack with the prices? How long has that been going on?
Yeah, I don't have a year for you either.
Has it been years?
I don't know.
Has it been years, Mr. Giebert? Can you at least say it's been years?
It's been years.
Years. Years. Who was going to stop it? The last president didn't. Presidents of both parties before haven't, because it takes what Mr. Hermstadt said, the will, the political will, to stand up to them and take some of the political flack back home, to stay with them and to send the message that we're not going anywhere until they treat our workers and our manufacturers and our farmers fairly. When is there a good time to do that? I think that's the biggest existential threat to my children and to the next generation of farmers in West Texas. I say God bless this president for taking them on. It's easy to armchair quarterback this thing. I think we're being ticky-tack, quite frankly, about what he could have done and should have done and would have done. Mr. Hermstadt, surely you can appreciate that the structural changes in this phase 1 and the fact that we have a 2020 election going on and they're still willing to do a deal where they're going to purchase 2 times almost the amount of product from American producers, and we're going to leave tariffs on there as leverage, and that we're dealing with some of the structural issues. I mean, that's remarkable to me. It's historic. Now, the proof's in the pudding. The proof's in our ability to hold them accountable and force it in their behavior will determine whether this has been success or not. But in principle, Mr. Hermstadt, good to see you again, by the way. But I mean, this is significant. This is substantive. Would you not agree?
I agree that the proof is in the pudding.
But would you agree in principle, if we can get them to change their behavior because of the enforcement, among other things, this is substantive. We want to get to phase 2. You're right. I loved what you said. I almost agree with everything you were saying earlier. But let's celebrate the fact that we're pushing back on a country that would like to own your farm, Mr. Dufault. Quite frankly, they'd love to put you out of business. And I know it's been tough. And the president's been, I think, very understanding and sympathetic. And he hasn't just been with his mouth. The MFP payments that are just a bridge. We don't want permanent assistance. We want a bridge to get from here to that greener pasture. Do you think that's been helpful, Mr. Giebert?
Absolutely, Mr. Arrington.
I'm all for what the president's done. I appreciate the hearing, and Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank the gentleman. We will now proceed to